If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it.
So let's begin talking about these wins. So the Knicks are headed back to the playoffs after picking up two big wins over the weekend. Jalen Brunson, 48 points to power the Knicks to a win over the Cavaliers in Cleveland on Friday. Then on Sunday, the shorthanded Knicks came from behind to defeat a shorthanded Washington Wizards team, running away with a score of 118-109. The Knicks got a stellar performance from Jalen Brunson once again, who had 27 points in the win. But the bigger story from this one might be the performances of some key role players, some key supporting cast members of this Knicks team, starting with Quentin Grimes, who continues to shoot the lights out. He had 27 points in this game. Obi Toppin, starting for Julius Randle, who is going to be out for the remainder of the regular season with an ankle sprain. He scored 21 points in the win. So big performance from those guys. RJ Barrett did not play in this game. He suffered an illness in the game, so he was unable to play. So Emmanuel quickly stepped in. He added 22 points, so quickly doing what he normally does when he gets into the starting lineup. So a lot happening over the weekend. Randall goes out for the rest of the regular season. He's going to be reevaluated for a sprained ankle in 2 weeks. That would line him up almost right before the start of a potential game one in the postseason. Meanwhile, Obi Toppin has been in the starting lineup, and RJ Barrett missed the last game with an illness, but they're expecting him to be back soon. So what did you learn, Tommy, from these wins the Knicks got without Julius Randle in the lineup?
Yeah, I thought it just kind of reinforced, there have been a ton of great storylines this season, from Randall's reemergence and Brunson and, so many of the other good players, ascending, really, kind of hoping, becoming what Knicks fans had hoped, the Knicks front office and coaching staff had hoped. And one of the other storylines was the depth of this team. Somebody goes down, the next man up mentality. Every team talks about it. Every coach talks about it. The Knicks have walked the walk when it comes to that cliche. They really have. And as we've discussed, the Knicks don't have one of those elite, superstars in terms of, top 5 talent in the NBA, one of the 10 best players in the NBA. As a result, they kind of have to rely on contributions from a well-constructed roster night in, night out. And one of the benefits of that is, even when one component is missing, they have the depth and the all around, just kind of the ability to pick each other up that allows them to sustain success. We've seen when Brunson goes down, IQ steps in. RJ Barrett goes down, Grimes and IQ will chip in. And now we have Randall missing 2 games for the first time all season. Sunday night in a win against an albeit depleted Wizards G League team. Obi Toppin scores a season-high 21 points. The Knicks have 4 players scored more than 20 points for the first time since 2018. December 1st, 2018, to be exact. It was an overtime win against Milwaukee. That was the night Mario Hezonja stepped over Giannis. That's what that game was known for. 4 Knicks with 20 points in that contest were Emmanuel Mudiay, Tim Hardaway Jr., Kevin Knox, and Damian Dotson. One, not only does that tell you how long it's been since the Knicks scored 20 points, 2, it's a reminder, not that any Knicks fan would take advancing the playoffs for granted, but a reminder of just what Knicks fans have had to root for. The Emmanuel Mudiay, the trying to convince yourself that Damian Dotson is going to be a star player, that Alonzo Trier is going to be the next guy that's going to be a legit starter in the NBA. Elfrid Payton is a quality starting point guard. All these other players and young guys, and Frank Ntilikina and Frank Williams and Ronaldo Balkans. We can go on and on and on and on. The Knicks finally have the guys that can lead your team to sustain success. Quentin Grimes, 25th pick in the draft. You mentioned Grimes, and we'll talk about him right off the bat here because he deserves it. Last 6 games, he's averaging 20.8 points, 4.8 rebounds, 4 assists, 4.8 made 3-pointers, while shooting 52% from the floor, 50% from behind the arc. During the stretch, basically 2 weeks, he leads the NBA. He's tied with Klay Thompson and three-point shooting, has a higher three-point percentage than Steph and Luka Doncic and Klay Thompson during that same stretch. Even going back 10 games, he's right around 50% from three. He's playing the best basketball of his career at the moment. IQ, we've talked about him. He's going to win Sixth Man of the Year, most likely. There's just, so many things about this team. Looking back on the season, nobody would have said that. Few people would have argued that the Knicks could win 46 games and all but lock up the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference with a week left in the regular season. In order for all those, because in order for them to be 13 games above 500 in early April, Grimes would have had to exceed expectations. IQ would have had to exceed expectations. Brunson would have had to exceed expectations. Julius Randle would have had to exceed expectations. Isaiah Hartenstein would have had to exceed expectations. Some guy they got at the deadline would have had to exceed expectations.
Yeah.
And Josh Hart has done that. And all those players have done that. So it really, truly is remarkable when you look back at the big picture, just how well everybody has played when their number has been called for the most part. You sum all that up, you throw it all in the blender, and you get a team that's 13 games above 500. Looks like they're going to lock up the 5th seed in a day or two. And it's just a fun, exciting Knicks team to watch that I think we're all appreciative we've had the opportunity to kind of have a front row seat for.
Yeah, it's something that I kind of teased on the last show, not knowing that they were going to win 2 games, obviously, and not knowing they were going to get such great performances from Grimes, great performance from Obi Toppin on Sunday. But I mentioned on the last show, I said, I hope that when they had over the Heat in the second half, kind of showed the entire organization, showed the coaching staff, showed the players, showed everyone, the fans, that the Knicks are not a one-man show. They're not a two-man show. They're not an end-all, be-all with just Julius Randle, and that this was a good team. This was a deep team. This was a team that, if they played the right way, could win multiple ways and multiple styles of play. And that's essentially what you saw in these games, starting with that Cleveland game where, if you tell me Donovan Mitchell has all those, makes his first 8 shots or whatever he made, and he's going off the way he was in that first quarter, and that the Cleveland Cavaliers couldn't miss a shot basically in the whole first quarter. They scored 47 points, I think. And you tell me the Knicks find a way to win that game, I would say it sounds pretty unlikely, but the Knicks showed that, hey, they can get up and down the court. They can play a much more faster pace, a more free-flowing pace, a more free-flowing way of offense when they're not so bogged down in just Julius Randle isolations or Randle Brunson one 2-man game. They were able to get a lot more easy shots. They were able to get out in the break. They were able to get in transition. And we saw them just really kind of thrash the Cleveland defense. I know they didn't have Jared Allen, which was a big loss in that game. But the ease in which Knicks were able to score, in part, I think because they weren't so predictable, I think was very important. We saw that in that game. We saw in this game how a player, again, like Obi Toppin, a guy who's been, kind of marginalized because of his role, because of the minutes he's unable to get on the court, he can go out there, he can get 21 points and get them with pretty much ease. He's doing things out there that we didn't get to see him do as much. It looked like the players actually looking for him more on cuts and things like that. And you saw his production for the minutes that he played. You got 21, you got 21 points in 33 minutes, 9-15 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3. You saw the shot profile change a little bit. He did still take a lot of threes, but we actually got to see him take a lot more twos when he plays in those short minutes. He only gets to really just launch some threes. And if they go in, he plays good. If they don't go in, he doesn't play well. Him playing with a different lineup, different group of guys, he actually able to provide more offensively in this game. So it goes to show that, hey, the Knicks are a good team, and that if things aren't working one way, if Randle has an off night or things aren't going well, they could win in a multitude of ways. They could play a multitude of lineups. Some of these lineups we saw in this game, the game on Sunday, or lineups we hadn't seen all season, and they had some success. So I hope that this is a wake-up call to the whole team, to the organization, to the fans, that look, like, everybody's got to get on board. Everybody's got to be on the same page. And the Knicks, they're going to need Julius Randle to do anything in the playoffs. Nobody is foolish enough to think that that's not the case.
Well,
but it does show that from a game-to-game situation, they're going to have to adjust. And if some things aren't working, they can easily transform the way they play, and they can still win games against good ball clubs.
Yeah, don't say nobody's foolish enough because you've been on Knicks
Well,
Twitter long enough to know that.
yeah, true enough. That's very fair point.
that some people will. But yes, 100%. Knicks obviously want Julius Randle back for the first game. You're crazy. It just makes the Knicks a better team when you add an All NBA player to
Right.
the roster. If you have the choice, you take the guy that averages 25, 10, and 5. That being said, exactly to your point. This is a good reminder that they don't have to be dependent on their All NBA player or their All Star point guard. That there's and we talked about it last week. There's multiple ways and this is a way that the Knicks can improve. For instance, the Knicks were ranked 29th in assists per game this season, 22.8 assists per game. I think only the Rockets are worse. They dished out 31 on Sunday. The ball moves a lot more when Randall's not on the floor because it has to, because they can't rely on somebody to score in isolation and bully baskets that Randall can simply overpower opponents and knock down threes. It's and the Knicks offense has been better than good all season. They've been close to great, near the top 5 throughout the year consistently. And Randall's a huge part of that. Him and Brunson, the biggest parts of that. But again, as we've discussed, that doesn't mean that they rely on that, because in a playoff series now, when games really matter, when it's do or die, if you're locked into one method and that method fails you, as we saw in that first round series against the Hawks, when Randall shot 37% from the floor and his numbers were way down from the regular season, the Knicks essentially had no chance and were stomped out in 5 games.
Yeah.
Now you have the opportunity. If that's struggling, let's switch it up. Maybe we'll go small. Hartenstein, have him facilitate from the top of the key. Let Grimes get more involved offensively, both shooting the 3 and taking it to the basket. So there's just a lot different ways. So that's as we mentioned in previous spots, the one silver lining you're looking for over this final week is obviously you want everyone to stay healthy, but continue to experiment with different lineups, different rotations, and kind of get everyone comfortable. Because again, all we know is that Randall's going to get reevaluated 2 days before the postseason.
Right.
That by no means guarantees he's going to be ready for game 1 that first weekend. So a lot of different, it's difficult to predict what might happen. So you put yourself in position to be able to succeed no matter what news you get from that reevaluation.
Yeah, and we will talk about the playoffs in a second. I get the impression, and no one knows for sure, but I get the feeling, knowing Randall and knowing, quite frankly, the Knicks organization and how they value guys being available, that they put that 2-week thing there because they're pretty much saying 2 weeks we're going to look at it, and if he can move fairly well, we're going to throw him out there. So I expect him to be back, but you're right, it's not a guarantee, and I posted it on Twitter, especially. I actually posted it before, or maybe in the first quarter of the Cavs game. It definitely wasn't after, but I tweeted. I said, "Is there a chance that the Knicks could find a way to sit Randle's first 2 games in Cleveland, steal a game in Cleveland, and then come back, 1-1, Randle comes back into the lineup?" Because we saw Dallas last season. Jalen Brunson went solo dolo going up against the Utah Jazz, a Donovan Mitchell-led team that was fully healthy. And they found a way to not just win 1 game. They won 2 games. Now, that was at home, so that was a little different. But they got 2 wins with Jalen Brunson running the show in Dallas without Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic was injured, I believe, also with an ankle injury. So seeing what I saw on Friday, I don't want to take too much from the game, but just seeing how versatile this Knicks team can be, and I think how vulnerable Cleveland can be, it just made me wonder, because you're looking at then a game 3 probably being now 3 weeks out since ankle injury, and you're thinking, any more time would be better than less time, and you think maybe 3 weeks would probably put them closer to being close to 100%. It did make me wonder that, do you maybe go into game 1 and say, well, hold them, and if we lose, maybe we put them out there in game 2 because we need them, or if we win, then we can say, all right, chill, we'll get you back in game 3, back at the Garden, back at home. I think it's going to be something interesting to follow moving forward.
Definitely agree, and especially if that game was if they play Sunday and then Tuesday and then they wait till Friday or the next Saturday. Sometimes you get those long gaps in playoff series. Definitely something to keep in mind. I will say, I'd be lying if it didn't cross my mind that what happens if the Knicks win those first 2 games in Cleveland somehow without Randle and then come back and lose game 3, or that's Randle psychologically, we know how temperamental that can be. Like,
Yeah.
would he recover from that in the series? Would he recover from that during, because the talk that offseason would be fair or not, the Knicks are a better team without Randle. So that's a whole nother, so for that reason, let's say, and let's say the Knicks win these final 3 games, so they close the year on a 5-game win streak without Randle, even though the games are, they're playing 3 bad opponents. Especially the Pacers, a team without Tyrese Halliburton. So for that reason, I think Randle's going to do everything possible to get back on the floor, just to prevent the even murmurs of, the Knicks are a better team without Randle in the postseason thing. I'm not saying that's smart. I'm not saying that's the right decision.
Yeah.
I'm just saying from what I've seen from the player and just human nature as we know it, I think that's something that has crept into his mind. Like, I don't want, it's just the same reason why, all these while Cal Ripken never set out a game. Like, no matter how good you are, you're always afraid about that player coming in and Wally Pippen you. So what I think it's something in the back of the mind of Randle. But again, the Knicks have done a good job throughout, basically in Leon Rose's tenure, of not letting information leak out. So I would say, like, wait for a Woj bomb, wait for a Shams tweet to kind of get some insight into how the Knicks might be feeling, maybe a week before, the playoffs start. But we'll probably have to wait until the days before. And even then, I'm sure they're going to play close to the vest because they want the Cavs to have to prepare. It's like, if you're starting quarterbacks, up in the air, you want and you have an option quarterback as opposed to a pocket passer, you want the defense to have to prepare for both guys. So obviously the Knicks are going to wait for as long as possible before they commit one way or the other.
And we've seen now 2 games, especially the last game against Washington, that the Knicks, Obi and Randle are completely different players. Obi can have a big impact in games, as we saw on Sunday. Is there any way when Randle comes back, because he will come back at some point, is there any way the Knicks can find a way to unlock some of this stuff that we saw from Obi in these games when Randle comes back? Because we've seen that, Obi's impact has been, minimal at times because he's been forced to kind of only be a shooter. Here in these games, we saw him last game. He had 4 assists in this game just now. Mitchell Robinson had 4 assists too. So all the bigs were really getting into action, moving the ball a lot better than we normally see. But is there any chance that we could see Obi be unleashed a little bit better? Now, I'm not going to say more because I don't know if he's going to play more minutes, but maybe utilized better in these games when Randle does return.
Obviously you'd like to think so. I wouldn't hold my breath if I was a Knicks fan. We have a good sample size here. The good news is that once the Hart's arrival, I think, reinvigorated Obi and the Knicks choosing to facilitate, allow Isaiah Hartenstein to facilitate more from the high post, should get, Obi some easy buckets off cuts and things along those lines. So, but, again, it's difficult in 12 minutes a night, 13 minutes a night, 11 minutes a night to truly make a big impact, especially when they kind of camp him out in the corner. And if he's playing on that second unit, that's probably where he's going to end up being. So, would you like to see, an additional kind of ramped up Obi version 2.0 that we've seen, that we saw Sunday night? Ideally, yes, but realistically, I think with the limited playing time and just kind of the team structure, that it's not likely, but hopefully it's a little bit closer to this version of Obi than it was in the first half of the season.
Yeah, I certainly hope that's the case. You're right. I think Josh Hart has done a good job of kind of unlocking a lot of guys in the team, quite frankly.
Yep.
He's come in and he's really been a big impact. And we've seen almost immediately how much he changed the dynamic of the team. And he did leave that game at the end against the Wizards. He had also twisted his ankle. I don't know. Have you seen anything on how? I didn't see anything about being severe or anything. But
the Josh Hart situation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the latest we have, fourth quarter, he twists his ankle, his right ankle, goes down, starts limping off the floor. The entire Garden gasps, everyone, you could tell, like, the volume drops down and everyone's a little more nervous. The Knicks PR staff sent out tweeted out about 15 minutes later. Josh Hart, his ankle had been retaped and he was cleared for return.
Right.
Obviously, he did not return to the contest. It was a blowout and no need to put him in garbage time. Same as you, I have not seen him. I didn't see him speak after the game. I don't think they made him available to the media. Tibbs didn't have much to offer because I'm sure they had to wait for the medical stuff. It sounds like, if the Knicks had a playoff game tonight, he could probably play. That's certainly the situation. He was cleared to play last night. Who knows? Maybe the ankle swelled up on him. I would assume the Knicks give him. Knicks don't play again. We're recording this Monday night. Monday afternoon. Knicks don't play again till Wednesday night. I would assume the Knicks give him the next game off. Just to err on the side of caution, even if he's 100%. Because again, there's only 3 games left in the schedule. One of the goals is win one game to clinch the Knicks magic number, by the way, now is 1. So any combination of Knicks wins or either a Knicks win or a Nets loss, and the Knicks have locked up the 5 seed. One other thing just to note, so it certainly looks like the Knicks will have at least a 5 seed. Technically, they can still catch the Cavs for 4. That would require the Knicks winning all 3 of their final games and the Cavs losing all 3 of their final games. The Cavs play Orlando twice and then Charlotte. So that's certainly extremely unlikely, but technically still possible. And the other thing, just to note, the Cavs can still catch the Sixers for the 3 seed. They're 1.5 back with 3 games to go on the Cavs schedule and 4 games left on Philly. So I believe Philly's number to secure the number 3, magic number to secure the number 3 seed is 2. So you'd assume that'll happen. And, the very safe assumption now is very likely it'll be Sixers 3 and then the Cavs, Knicks 4 or 5. But that being said, Knicks still have to win one more game to secure a playoff victory, to secure the 6 seed, 5 seed rather, ahead of the Nets. So they'll try to win Wednesday night in Indiana. Maybe the last 2 games you'll see some Trevor Keels and Jericho Sims and Daquan Jeffries. So we'll see how that plays out. But obviously keeping Hart healthy and Brunson looked like he hurt his thumb a little bit on that one drive to the basket. Those are the type of things you want to avoid in the last couple games of the season.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to keep everybody fresh, keep everybody whole as you get to the postseason, which is now official. So Knicks win this one, 118-109 over the Wizards. A Wizards team that I thought was pretty pesky, and Knicks didn't necessarily play their cleanest play in the first half, but I thought really turned it up, especially defensively in the second half. So in just a few weeks,